Guo was elated when he wed Canuela. She infused his existence with an unending cascade of laughter and delight. Radiant, gentle, and deeply empathetic, she was the embodiment of his wildest dreams, far more than just a mere woman. Their love was the kind sung about in songs and penned in the most passionate novels. Yet life, with its cruel unpredictability, doesn't follow a scripted narrative. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. When Canuela became pregnant, Guo's world shifted dramatically. The pregnancy was fraught with complications, forcing her to leave her job to safeguard their precious unborn child. Guo poured all his energy into caring for Canuela, their hearts brimming with excitement for the forthcoming addition to their family. Both longed for children, frequently dreaming and debating potential names with joy and anticipation. However, when the moment of birth arrived, their lives were thrown into turmoil. The labor was agonizingly prolonged and fraught with peril. The baby was not positioned correctly, necessitating urgent medical intervention. As the baby entered the world, the atmosphere shifted to dread as the medical team rushed to save Canuela. She was suffering from severe internal bleeding, and Guo, consumed with anxiety, could do nothing but pace helplessly in the sterile, cold corridor, his heart in his throat, praying for a miracle. The medical team battled tirelessly for nearly 8 harrowing hours to save his cherished wife. Despite their valiant efforts, Canuela's heart, already weakened by the grueling childbirth, ultimately gave out. The strain was too immense, and in that heart-wrenching moment, Guo's world shattered as he lost the love of his life, his radiant Canuela. The profound joy of welcoming their child was devastatingly overshadowed by the tragic loss of his beloved partner, leaving him to navigate the depths of sorrow and despair. The day meant to mark a joyous new chapter for their family was instead cloaked in sorrow with the tragic loss of Guo's lifelong love. When they brought his newborn daughter to him, a fragile little bundle nestled among other vulnerable infants in the ward, Guo was overwhelmed with grief and tears. The tiny baby, unaware of her profound loss, only had her father left, who was drowning in despair and immense sadness after losing his beloved wife. During the baby's stay in the hospital, she received care not only from the nurses but also from several compassionate mothers who learned of her heartbreaking circumstances. The maternity ward was filled with kind-hearted souls who cradled her, offering what she sorely missed: her mother's gentle touch, the comforting warmth of her embrace, and the vital nourishment she needed. Overwhelmed with gratitude for these generous women, Guo knew he couldn't remain in his grief for long. He had to face the daunting reality of raising his daughter alone. Honoring his wife's wishes, he named the baby Luca, the name Canuela had lovingly chosen for their daughter. Understanding the gravity of his situation, Guo's workplace granted him a brief leave to organize his wife's funeral. In those few days, as he navigated through the logistical tasks, he often found himself breaking down in tears, overcome with sorrow. Yet each time he composed himself, it was the thought of the helpless little bundle waiting for him in the hospital that gave him strength. Luca was an innocent soul, now solely reliant on him, and Guo knew he had to be strong for her. He resolved to honor his wife's memory by being the best parent he could be, pulling himself together to provide the love and care their daughter so desperately needed. Despite his heartbreak, he found a renewed sense of purpose in ensuring Luca would grow up surrounded by the love and devotion that Canuela had always dreamed of. After the funeral, where Guo heard many kind words and well wishes, he returned to work with a heavy heart, knowing he had to face a difficult conversation with his boss. Antonio Torres was a man of old-school toughness, strict, stern, but fair. While many of his subordinates feared him, Guo held a deep respect for this uncompromising leader. Antonio listened intently as Guo recounted his heartbreaking story of being left alone with a newborn. With a furrowed brow, Antonio pondered the situation. "I understand the gravity of your situation, And while this might not be a perfect solution, I believe it can help. Typically, maternity leave is taken by women for obvious reasons, but our company's policies do not exclude men from taking such leave. I didn't know that, Guo admitted honestly, his voice tinged with surprise. Antonio interrupted, however, I must inform you that this leave is hardly paid. Guo's surprise was palpable, but Antonio continued, but Guo, I recognize that, unlike many women who have husbands to support them during this time, you have no one. So here's my proposal: take the maternity leave, but continue working from home. There are tasks you can handle remotely, and this way you can still provide for your child. Guo was taken aback by the offer. He had braced himself for the worst, yet here was a lifeline extended by his formidable boss. Antonio's words, though practical and straightforward, carried a weight of empathy and understanding that Guo deeply appreciated. The opportunity to work from home meant he could be there for Luca, ensuring she received the care and attention she needed during these critical early months. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Guo nodded. Thank you, Mr. Torres. I appreciate your understanding and support more than words can express. Antonio's stern expression softened ever so slightly. Take care of your daughter, Guo. Family comes first. We'll manage the work together. With this arrangement, Guo found a glimmer of hope amidst his sorrow. He could honor Consuela's memory by being the devoted father Luca needed while maintaining his ability to provide for their future. Despite the challenges ahead, Guo felt a renewed sense of purpose, determined to navigate this new path with strength and resilience. Antonio, you have no idea how much this will help. Guo was ready to fall to his knees before his boss in gratitude. I'll give you as much time as you need. You're a diligent, reliable worker, and I don't want to lose you because of life's twists and turns. And your daughter is not at fault in any of this. She needs to eat. So don't worry about the money. I'll discuss this with the department and arrange tasks so that everything you can do remotely will be sent to you. But remember one thing, the little one also needs time and care. Of course, Guo grabbed his boss's outstretched hand, squeezing it firmly. I won't forget this. Antonio, the boss, simply nodded in response. From that moment, Guo rarely appeared in the office unless necessary. Fortunately, he seldom attended meetings, and some could be conducted by phone or video call. As soon as Guo took Luca home from the maternity ward, he realized how challenging it was to care for a newborn. He was constantly torn between numerous tasks, encountering new problems all the time. He never imagined how hard it was to take care of a baby, and his little girl turned out to be particularly restless. Whenever he tried to feed her formula, she would fuss and spit it out. So he started going to the milk kitchen every day to ensure his daughter always had something to eat, keeping formula as a last resort. The days were long and exhausting. Guo juggled conference calls and diaper changes, emails and lullabies. The nights were even harder, with Luca waking up frequently, her cries piercing the silence in his heart. Despite the physical and emotional toll, Guo found a strength he never knew he had. Every smile from Luca, every tiny hand gripping his finger, reminded him of Consuela and the love they shared. He poured all his love into caring for their daughter, determined to give her the best life possible. Antonio's understanding and support were lifelines for Guo. Knowing his job was secure and that he could provide for Luca gave him the stability he desperately needed. He focused on his work during Luca's naps, often burning the midnight oil to meet deadlines. His colleagues and clients were understanding, and the flexibility allowed him to be present for his daughter in ways he never thought possible. Through the sleepless nights and challenging days, Guo learned to cherish every moment with Luca. Her coos and giggles became his solace, her presence a beacon of hope. He found joy in the small victories: her first smile, the first time she slept through the night, the first time she held her bottle. Each milestone was a testament to his and Consuela's enduring love and his commitment to being the best father he could be. As the weeks turned into months, Guo settled into a new rhythm, balancing his responsibilities as a father and a professional. The grief of losing Consuela remained a constant ache, but his love for Luca and the support from Antonio and his colleagues gave him the strength to carry on. He knew Consuela would be proud of him, and that thought gave him the courage to face each new day with determination and hope. For 3 months, Guo had been adjusting to the constant demands of his daughter, balancing her care with his work. He would seize the quiet moments when Luca slept in her cradle to catch up on his tasks, her peaceful slumber a brief respite. But that day, everything seemed to go wrong. Guo was late to the milk kitchen, and there was nothing left to feed Luca except the formula she detested. For hours, he tried in vain to coax her into eating, but she whimpered and refused, growing more upset by the minute. Guo struggled to hold back his tears, wondering how women managed to do all this. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Guo quickly wiped his eyes before opening it. Standing on the threshold, hands on her hips, was his neighbor Mariella. She had recently given birth as well, and the stern look on her face made him feel ashamed. His daughter must have woken up her baby. "Guo," she said, nodding to the man who was desperately rocking his whimpering daughter. "Mariella, I'm so sorry," Guo began, his voice thick with emotion. "Luca wouldn't eat and I was late for the milk kitchen." Mariella's expression softened as she stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "It's okay, Guo. Babies can be tough, especially when you're doing it alone." Guo sighed, feeling a wave of relief and gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you. I've been trying to get her to eat for hours, but she just won't take the formula." Mariella reached out, gently taking Luca from Guo's arms. "Let me help. I still have some milk I can spare. And don't be so hard on yourself. It's not easy, but you're doing great." Watching Mariella soothe and feed Luca, Guo felt a profound sense of humility and relief. The sight of his daughter finally content, her cries quieted by Mariella's gentle care, brought tears to his eyes again this time, tears of gratitude. "You don't have to do this," Guo said, his voice trembling. "But thank you. Thank you." Mariella smiled, her expression warm and reassuring. "We're neighbors, Guo. We look out for each other. And besides, no one should have to do this alone." From that day forward, Mariella became an invaluable support for Guo. She shared tips on caring for a newborn, lent him milk when he needed it, and sometimes just offered a listening ear when the weight of his responsibilities felt too heavy to bear. With her help, Guo found new strength and confidence in his role as a father. Though the days were still challenging, Guo no longer felt completely overwhelmed. He learned to accept help and to lean on others, understanding that community and kindness could make even the most daunting tasks manageable. And in those moments of quiet, when Luca lay contentedly in her crib, Guo found solace in knowing he wasn't alone in his journey. Mariella raised her hand, cutting off Guo's apology, and shook her head with a firm but compassionate expression. "Here's the thing, neighbor. I hear your little one crying almost every day. It's likely because she doesn't like the formula." Guo looked at her in surprise. "Help." Mariella's eyes brightened with resolve. "Yes, help. As you know, I recently gave birth to a son. Unfortunately, I have an overabundance of milk. It breaks my heart to pour it down the drain, especially knowing your daughter needs it. I won't take no for an answer. I can't bear to hear your baby cry when I have a solution." The sincerity in Mariella's voice and her willingness to step in touched Guo deeply. His eyes welled with tears of gratitude. Despite her stern demeanor, her generosity was a beacon of hope for him, a single father on the brink of despair. This moment marked the beginning of a profound friendship and mutual support between the two neighbors. Mariella's role in Guo's life extended far beyond simply offering her excess milk. She became an indispensable pillar of support. Whenever Guo had errands to run or needed to attend to tasks outside his home, Mariella stepped in with an open heart, providing tender care for Luca. In exchange for her unwavering assistance, Guo took on the responsibility of shopping for Mariella. Armed with a list of groceries, he would leave his daughter in Mariella's capable hands and manage the shopping needs for both households. Mariella's aid was a lifeline for Guo, and his efforts to reciprocate were equally significant. On days when Mariella needed respite or a breath of fresh air, Guo would take both children out for walks or outings, granting her the chance to relax and enjoy some quiet time, free from the worries of childcare. This mutual support became a fundamental part of their lives, weaving their experiences together in a fabric of shared responsibility and kindness. Their partnership was a beacon of hope and camaraderie, shining brightly through the trials they faced. Each act of assistance strengthened their bond, creating a space of trust and cooperation. In navigating their challenges, Guo and Mariella discovered a profound sense of community and mutual care. Their friendship demonstrated that even amid adversity, unexpected connections and selfless acts can illuminate the path forward. Through their collaboration, they not only supported each other but also built a sanctuary of understanding and support, affirming the power of solidarity and compassion in the face of life's difficulties. As the months morphed into years, Guo found himself navigating an ever-shifting landscape of challenges. The demands and expenses of raising Luca were relentless, and despite his efforts to manage with a part-time job, his financial situation grew increasingly strained. The cost of everything from diapers to clothes seemed to rise daily, and Luca's rapid growth was almost overwhelming. She seemed to change before his eyes, growing more each day. Once again, Mariella stepped up with a generous offer, promising to care for Luca if he opted for a part-time office job. Initially doubtful, Guo was profoundly moved by her selflessness. "Don't worry," Guo Mariella said with a reassuring smile, her warmth evident in her tone. "Luca is an absolute delight when she isn't fussing about formula. It's no trouble for me, and you can rest easy knowing she'll be in loving and capable hands while you're at work. Besides, my son has become so much more at ease since she's been around. He adores her like a little sister." Though Guo felt a mix of gratitude and uncertainty, he decided to take Mariella up on her offer. This new arrangement allowed him to work at the office for part of the day, while leaving Luca in Mariella's care. The remainder of his workday was spent from home, striking a delicate balance between his professional responsibilities and his duties as a father. This setup proved to be a lifeline, and over time, their mutual support and cooperation deepened. Mariella's kindness had once again proved indispensable, allowing Guo to manage both his job and his responsibilities as a father. Their partnership became a cornerstone of their daily lives, reinforcing the strength of their bond. Through shared efforts and unwavering support, they not only navigated their struggles but also forged a resilient and supportive friendship. As the years passed, Luca and Mariella's son, Dante, began their journey into kindergarten. Guo and Mariella carefully coordinated their schedules, taking turns to drop off and pick up the children each day. This well-organized routine not only facilitated their daily responsibilities but also deepened their bond, reinforcing the vital role they played in each other's lives. Mariella's influence went far beyond the scope of childcare. Her patience and compassion helped Guo forge a more profound connection with Luca. He mastered the art of braiding her hair and tying her ponytails, delighting in the joy that shone in her eyes as he picked out dresses and shoes that made her smile. What once seemed daunting to him transformed into cherished routines, creating treasured memories for both father and daughter. The partnership between Guo and Mariella blossomed into a steadfast friendship characterized by mutual respect and shared experiences. Mariella's unwavering support had been a beacon during some of Guo's most trying times, and in turn, Guo's active involvement in her life underscored their enduring relationship. Their collaboration fostered a nurturing environment for Luca and Dante, ensuring that both children grew up with a strong sense of stability and affection. Through their combined efforts, Guo and Mariella built a sanctuary of care and understanding where both families could thrive. Their bond, forged through shared challenges and unwavering support, had become a source of strength and comfort, illuminating their lives with the light of genuine friendship and mutual respect. As the seasons cycled and life unfolded its many layers, Guo marveled at the journey he had undertaken. What once seemed like insurmountable challenges of parenting had become manageable, thanks to the unwavering support of a compassionate friend and neighbor. The shared experience of raising their children together stood as a powerful testament to the strength of the community and the profound impact of selfless generosity. Initially, Mariella's husband, Ren, had been cautious about his wife's close relationship with the widower. Yet, he soon came to understand that Mariella's intentions were pure. She had simply reached out to help Guo through his struggles with raising his daughter. Ren's initial concerns gave way to acceptance and even appreciation. He no longer felt any jealousy, even as weekends saw them all going to the park, where he enjoyed watching Dante and Luca play together with the ease of siblings. The sight of men's clothes occasionally strewn in the hallway, remnants of Guo's hurried attempts to manage the children's needs, had become a familiar and accepted part of their lives. As time moved forward and the children embarked on their educational journeys, Luca and Dante's bond remained steadfast. Despite meeting new friends and exploring new interests, their friendship endured. Dante continued to be a supportive presence in Luca's life, often assisting her with schoolwork and offering guidance whenever needed. Guo had hoped for such a meaningful connection when Mariella first extended her help, and his hopes were realized in the strong, supportive relationship that flourished between the two children. Even as they grew older and ventured into university life, Luca and Dante's friendship remained a constant. They continued to support each other through the challenges of young adulthood, maintaining the close connection that had been nurtured from their early years. Their friendship, born out of shared experiences and mutual support, became a lasting source of strength and companionship. The enduring bond between Luca and Dante, shaped by their parents' kindness and collaboration, was a beautiful reflection of the positive impact that genuine friendship and community can have on individual lives. As the years rolled on, it became increasingly apparent to both fathers that Mariella's relationship with Guo had grown warmer and more affectionate. The once innocent gestures of support had evolved into something much deeper. Their teenage children often teased them about how long it took for their parents to acknowledge their feelings for each other. Ren, having observed Mariella's unspoken affection for Guo over the years, had long known of her feelings, but had been reluctant to push the relationship, prioritizing the children's well-being and stability. Now that the children were grown and had embarked on their paths, Ren saw no reason to continue delaying what seemed inevitable. He encouraged Mariella to embrace the chance for happiness with Guo. For Guo, this was a golden opportunity he was determined not to miss. When he finally took Mariella out on a date and shared a heartfelt kiss after seeing her home, it marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. Both Mariella and Guo recognized that this was a moment not to be squandered, and they seized it with open hearts. With the children having completed their university studies and ready to forge their futures, Mariella and Guo felt that the time was right to solidify their relationship. They confessed their feelings to each other and decided to marry, hoping their union would bring joy and fulfillment not only to themselves but also to their children. Their wedding took place in a quaint chapel, a simple yet profound celebration of their love and commitment. Dante and Luca, who had grown up together as close friends, took on the roles of witnesses for their parents. Their tears of happiness reflected the depth of their support and affection for their families. Ren, who had long since separated from Mariella and followed his path, attended the wedding with genuine good wishes. He embraced both Mariella and Guo, acknowledging their new journey with warmth and without resentment. His support underscored the absence of any ill feelings and highlighted the respect he held for Mariella's pursuit of happiness. As Guo and Mariella began their married life, Guo felt immense gratitude for everything Mariella had done for him and his daughter. He vowed to be a steadfast partner and protector, committed to ensuring that their lives were filled with joy and light. His promise was a reflection of his deep appreciation for Mariella's unwavering support and love, and he looked forward to building a future together where their shared happiness would flourish. Guo's growing concern about Luca's distance was quickly overshadowed by an alarming reality. His daughter, once a vibrant part of his life, had become increasingly elusive. The change had been gradual, but now it felt as though she had disappeared entirely. Guo's attempts to give Luca space, following Mariella's advice, had seemingly backfired. The distance between them had widened, and now his worst fears seemed to be coming true. The weekend fishing trips, which had once been a source of solace, now felt like mere distractions from the growing anxiety. Guo found himself increasingly preoccupied, unable to focus on the peaceful rhythm of casting and reeling. The familiar routine of preparing for a new work week was marred by a gnawing worry about Luca. Returning home to an empty apartment was a jarring shock. Luca's absence was palpable. Her room, usually a whirlwind of activity and belongings, was eerily vacant. Her backpack was gone, and though her books and notebooks lay scattered, there was no sign of her. The silence was deafening. Desperate, Guo tried calling her phone, only to find it turned off, with messages and calls going unanswered. The lack of sleep weighed heavily on Guo as he navigated the workday, his anxiety amplifying with each passing hour. His attempts to reach Luca were met with silence, and the growing dread was relentless. When the workday ended, he rushed home again, only to find no sign of his daughter. In desperation, Guo went to the police station, hoping for some reassurance or assistance. But the officers' dismissive attitudes and half-hearted response only fueled his anxiety. Their casual assumption that Luca had merely gone out with friends and her phone had died was a cruel contrast to his growing fear. Their reluctance to take immediate action or show genuine concern left Guo feeling isolated and helpless. As the days passed, Guo's world seemed to unravel. He was trapped in a waking nightmare, where every moment was filled with the agonizing hope of finding Luca safe. Each morning began with the same heart-sinking realization Luca's phone was still off, and she was still missing. At work, he was a shadow of his former self, his mind preoccupied with worries and fears. Each return to his empty apartment was a painful reminder of the absence of his daughter, making his heartache even more profound. Guo's struggle was not just with the missing presence of his daughter, but with the overwhelming fear of not knowing where she was or whether she was safe. The once familiar rhythms of his life had been replaced by a constant state of worry and dread. He clung to the hope that, eventually, Luca would come home, that she would be found safe, and that he would have the chance to mend the fractured relationship they once had. But with each passing day, the sense of despair deepened, making every effort to reach her feel like a drop in an ever-expanding sea of uncertainty. The passage of time only deepened Guo's heartache. Each day in the empty apartment felt like a weight around his neck, a constant reminder of the void left by Luca's disappearance. The familiar routine of fishing, once a source of solace, became a grim ritual of distraction. Guo clung to the hope that each cast of his line might somehow bring him closer to the day when Luca would return, but each trip ended with the same painful reality: Luca was still missing. The first weekend after Luca vanished, Guo tried to immerse himself in his fishing routine, hoping that the rhythmic motion and quietude might ease his mind. Instead, it became a bitter reminder of his isolation and despair. He spoke to himself, whispering hopeful assurances like a prayer, But each return to the empty apartment crushed his optimism further. The second weekend was no better. He felt compelled to fish again, not for pleasure but to escape the relentless spiral of worry and sorrow. Guo's desperation reached a boiling point, leading him to the police station with renewed fervor. The frustration that had simmered beneath the surface erupted into angry pleas and desperate demands for action. The desk sergeant's indifference and the initial dismissals only fueled his rage. He recounted every detail of Luca's disappearance repeatedly, his voice breaking with each retelling. It was a breakthrough when a more attentive officer took Guo's case seriously. The missing persons case was formally opened, and Guo spent hours at the station, providing every conceivable detail about Luca. He described her appearance, possible outfits, and any friends she might have contacted. Exhausted but hopeful, he left the station with a fragile sense of assurance that the search would now be actively pursued. Weeks turned into months, and the relentless passage of time seemed to stretch into eternity. Each day brought a new level of despair. Guo's phone calls to the police grew less frequent as the hope for new information dimmed. The police reports were always the same: no leads, no progress. The initial urgency faded into a disheartening routine of periodic updates and empty reassurances. 2 years passed with no sign of Luca. Guo's life became a cycle of despair and hope, each day a struggle to maintain some semblance of normalcy. He continued to call the police, if only to keep the case alive in their minds, but the frequency of his calls diminished as the painful reality set in. He had learned to navigate life with a heavy heart, his once vibrant apartment now a somber reminder of the daughter who had vanished without a trace. In the silence of his home, Guo held onto memories of Luca, the laughter, the little milestones, and the everyday moments that now seemed like distant echoes. The search for his daughter had become a part of his life's fabric, a constant, painful reminder of the love he had for her and the agony of her absence. Despite the long years of uncertainty, Guo's love for Luca remained unwavering, and the hope that one day she might return continued to flicker in his heart, even as the world around him seemed to have moved on. As Guo dragged the boy to the shore, his heart raced with a mix of fear and relief. The boy coughed and spluttered, water escaping his lungs as he lay gasping on the grass. Guo, his own heart pounding from the exertion, knelt beside him, checking to make sure the child was breathing and responsive. "Are you all right?" Kid Guo asked, his voice trembling slightly. The boy looked up at him with wide, tear-filled eyes, still shaking from the ordeal but otherwise unharmed. I thought I'd drown," the boy stammered, his voice quivering. "I didn't know how to get out." Guo, still catching his breath, gently reassured the boy. "You're safe now. You're going to be okay. Just breathe slowly." After a few minutes, the boy seemed to recover his composure. Guo wrapped him in his jacket to keep him warm, and they sat together on the grass. The boy's clothes were soaked, and he was shivering, but he managed to give Guo a weak, grateful smile. "Thank you," the boy said softly, his voice shaky. "I didn't know what to do." "Don't mention it," Guo replied with a reassuring smile. "I'm just glad I was here in time." As the boy began to calm down, Guo noticed a family approaching from a distance. The boy's mother, a woman with an anxious expression, rushed forward, her eyes searching. "There you are," she exclaimed, gathering her son into her arms. "I was so worried. Thank God someone found him." Guo stood up, feeling a wave of exhaustion, but also a deep sense of fulfillment. The woman, still holding her son tightly, looked at Guo with gratitude. "Thank you so much for saving him," she said, tears of relief streaming down her face. "I don't know how I can ever repay you." "It was nothing," Guo said, shaking his head modestly. "I'm just glad he's safe." The woman introduced herself as Mia, and after making sure her son was all right, she invited Guo to her home for a warm meal. Guo accepted gratefully, feeling a small spark of connection and warmth amid his ongoing despair. As Guo shared the meal with Mia and her son, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The act of saving the boy had rekindled a fragment of hope in him. The small connection to another life, the reminder that he could still make a difference, gave him a renewed strength to continue his search for Luca. Back at his apartment, Guo found solace in the company of Mia and her son. Their presence, along with Mariella and Dante's continued support, helped him hold on to the hope that his daughter might one day come back to him. The drowning incident, though harrowing, had reminded him that life, despite its trials and sorrows, still held moments of unexpected grace and purpose. He continued to visit the police station periodically, holding on to the belief that one day he might receive the call he had longed for. And each time he returned to the pond, now more meaningful than ever, Guo hoped that the small, flickering flame of hope within him would eventually lead him back to his beloved Luca. Guo looked at the older boy, who was now addressing him while keeping a watchful eye on Javier. The boy's gratitude was genuine, and he appeared relieved that Javier was safe. Guo nodded, his mind still reeling from the sight of the pendant. "No problem at all," Guo replied, his voice steady but tinged with concern. "I'm just glad he's all right." The older boy glanced at Javier with a mix of relief and frustration. "We were supposed to keep a better eye on him. Thanks for pulling him out." Guo wanted to press further about the pendant, but the urgency of the situation and the presence of the group made it difficult. He turned his attention back to Javier, who was now sitting quietly, his earlier panic subdued by the comfort of his rescuers. "Where do you live?" Javier Guo asked gently. "I think it's important for you to go home and make sure everything is all right." Javier looked up, his eyes still wide but now with a hint of clarity. "I live near the park," he said, pointing vaguely in the direction. Guo noted the location, feeling a surge of determination. "Let me walk you home. Your parents need to know you're safe." As they walked together, Javier's older friends kept a close watch, their demeanor reflecting a mix of respect and concern. Guo was silent for a while, trying to piece together the significance of the pendant. When they reached Javier's home, Guo saw a modest house with a well-kept garden. The boy's mother was waiting anxiously on the porch, her face lighting up with immense relief upon seeing Javier. "Javier," she cried, rushing forward to embrace her son. "Thank God you're safe." After a brief explanation of what had happened, Guo decided it was time to bring up the pendant. He gently asked Javier's mother, "I noticed Javier is wearing a pendant that looks very familiar. It's a unique design that I had made for my daughter. I'm not sure if it's just a coincidence, but it's very similar." Javier's mother looked at the pendant with surprise and then at Guo with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "I didn't know the origin of the pendant. Javier's father gave it to him, but he passed away a few years ago. We don't know where he got it from." Guo's heart sank. The connection he had hoped for seemed more elusive than ever, but he remained resolute. "I'm sorry to intrude. My daughter has been missing for some time, and the pendant was something I specifically designed for her. I can't help but wonder if there's any chance it could be related." The mother listened intently and offered to help in any way she could. She took Guo's contact information, promising to investigate the origins of the pendant further. As Guo left Javier's home, he felt a renewed sense of determination. The pendant was a glimmer of hope, a possible link to his missing daughter. He was now more resolved than ever to continue his search, and the encounter had reignited his belief that, no matter how long it took, he might one day find Luca. The following weeks saw Guo frequenting Javier's home and working closely with the police, who were now more motivated to investigate the pendant's origins. Each step forward, however small, filled Guo with a sense of purpose. and he held on to the hope that the connection he had discovered might lead him back to his daughter. Guo stepped inside, feeling a twinge of unease as Mariella led him into the living room. Ren was pacing back and forth, his face drawn with worry. He stopped abruptly when he saw Guo, and Mariella quickly filled him in on the situation. "Hey," Ren Guo said cautiously. "Mariella mentioned something about work. Is everything all right?" Ren glanced at Guo, his expression a mix of frustration and concern. "It's been a rough day. We had some issues at work, unresolved complaints, and a bit of a scandal involving mismanagement of funds. I don't know all the details yet, but it's causing quite a stir." Guo nodded, empathizing with Ren's predicament. "That sounds stressful. Do you need any help with anything?" Ren shook his head, though his anxiety remained. "I appreciate the offer, but I think it's something I need to sort out myself. Thanks for coming by, though." Mariella, sensing the tension, tried to shift the conversation. "Guo, you mentioned earlier that you had a significant experience at the pond. Was everything okay?" Guo hesitated, still troubled by the discovery of the pendant but reluctant to share his worries. "I did have an interesting encounter, but I'm still processing it. It's nothing major." Ren's ears perked up. "You know, if you need to talk about anything, I'm here. Sometimes sharing can help." Guo glanced at Ren and then at Mariella, feeling the weight of the pendant's significance. He finally decided to open up, hoping that sharing might alleviate some of his distress. "There was something peculiar. The boy I saved had a pendant that looked exactly like the one I had made for my daughter. I'm trying to figure out if there's a connection." Ren and Mariella exchanged worried glances. "A pendant?" Ren asked, his tone shifting from casual to serious. "What did it look like?" Guo described the pendant detail, emphasizing the unique patterns and design. Mariella's face paled slightly as she listened. "I remember seeing something like that," she said slowly. "I don't recall exactly where, but it might be worth investigating further. It could be a lead." Ren nodded in agreement. "If there's a chance this could be connected to your daughter, you should follow up on it. We might be able to help." Guo felt a surge of hope. "I was thinking of going back to the police and asking for their assistance again. Maybe they could look into the pendant's origins." Mariella placed a comforting hand on Guo's shoulder. "Let's work together on this. We'll support you in any way we can." The reassurance from his friends was a welcome relief. Guo knew the path ahead would be challenging, but with Mariella and Ren's support, he felt better equipped to face it. They agreed to begin the search by contacting local authorities and revisiting Javier's family to gather more information about the pendant. As Guo left Mariella's home, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey to find Luca seemed a bit less daunting with the backing of his friends. For the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to believe that perhaps, just maybe, there was a way to bring his daughter back home. Guo's heart quickened as he processed Juan's words. The chance to connect the pendant with the fisherman and potentially find more leads on Luca's whereabouts was an opportunity he couldn't ignore. He quickly formulated a plan. "Thank you for the information, Juan. I'll head to the pond tomorrow to see if I can find any more details about this fisherman. If he frequents the place, I might be able to spot him," Guo said, trying to mask his excitement. Juan nodded, looking somewhat relieved. "That sounds like a good idea. I hope you find what you're looking for." Mariella, sensing Guo's urgency, added, "If you need any help or additional information, just let us know. We'll support you however we can." Guo thanked her and promised to keep her updated. With that, he left Juan and Mariella's house with a renewed sense of purpose. The information about the factory owner's search for the fisherman felt like a beacon of hope. If he could find the fisherman, he might uncover more about the pendant and, potentially, a lead on his missing daughter. The next morning, Guo made his way to the pond with a determined stride. As he arrived, he was greeted by the familiar, serene landscape of the water's edge. He set up his fishing gear as usual, but his mind was focused on the task at hand, finding the fisherman. Hours passed as Guo observed the pond and the people who frequented it. He approached other anglers and locals, asking if they knew anything about the fisherman who had saved a child. Many were familiar with the incident, but had little information about the rescuer's identity. Guo's persistence paid off when an elderly fisherman, who had been at the pond for decades, recognized the description of the man Guo was looking for. "I remember a fella who used to come here often. Always fishing alone, real quiet type," the old fisherman said, pointing to a small, modest house on the outskirts of town. "You might find him living there." Guo thanked the old fisherman and set off towards the address given. As he approached the small house, he noticed its simple appearance and the well-tended garden. He knocked on the door, and after a few moments, it was answered by a middle-aged man with a kind but wary expression. "Can I help you?" the man asked. "I'm Guo," he introduced himself. "I'm looking for a fisherman who might have saved a child from drowning recently. I was told you might know him." The man's face tightened with recognition. "That sounds like Javier's father. He mentioned someone helping his boy, but he never got a chance to thank the rescuer." Guo's heart raced. "Javier? The boy I rescued had a pendant I'm certain belonged to my daughter. Do you know where I might find this fisherman or his family?" The man nodded slowly. "Javier's father is quite a private person, but you might find him at the local community center during the afternoons. He often goes there to help with various activities." With this new lead, Guo thanked the man and made his way to the community center. There, he inquired about Javier's father and was directed to a small room where a few people were gathered. Among them was a man in his late 40s who looked up when Guo entered. "Excuse me," Guo began. "I'm looking for someone who might know more about the boy Javier and the pendant he was wearing." The man's eyes widened with recognition and concern. "I'm Javier's father. I've been meaning to thank the person who saved my boy. What can I help you with?" Guo explained the situation, including his concerns about the pendant. Javier's father listened intently, his expression growing more serious. "I had no idea the pendant had such significance," he said. "Javier mentioned it was a special gift from his mother. We've been keeping it safe, and it was a crucial part of our family memories." Guo's heart pounded. "Do you think this pendant might be linked to my daughter? It looks exactly like the one I had made for her." The man looked troubled. "I don't know for sure, but if you're looking for answers, I can give you the contact information for Javier's mother. She might know more about the pendant." Guo felt a surge of hope. That would be incredibly helpful. "Thank you." As he left the community center with the contact information, Guo felt a renewed sense of determination. The connection between the pendant and his daughter might be the breakthrough he had been waiting for. With Mariella and Juan's support, and this new lead, he was closer than ever to finding Luca and bringing her home. Guo's refusal of the reward was met with a mix of surprise and respect from the factory owner, who insisted that such acts of heroism deserved recognition. However, Guo remained firm in his decision. He only wanted to ensure that Javier's recovery was progressing well, and to find out more about the pendant that had sparked his hope. After the factory owner left, Guo took the opportunity to speak with Javier's father, who was still at the pond. The man, now visibly more relaxed and appreciative, agreed to meet Guo later to discuss the pendant. They arranged to meet at a local cafe that afternoon. When they did, Javier's father, whose name was Rafael, handed over a small, neatly wrapped box. Inside was the pendant Guo had seen around Javier's neck. Raphael explained that it had been given to Javier by his late mother, who had passed away a few years ago. The pendant was indeed a cherished family heirloom, which had been passed down through generations. This was given to Javier before she passed away, Raphael said, his voice tinged with sadness. We never realized how significant it was to you. I'm truly sorry for any distress this might have caused. Guo carefully examined the pendant, finding the intricate patterns that matched those he had ordered for Luca. His heart raced with the possibility that this connection might lead to finding his daughter. Thank you for bringing this to me, Guo said sincerely. I've been searching for my daughter for a long time, and this pendant is a significant clue. If there's anything else you can tell me about its origins, or if there's any chance it was misplaced somewhere else, I'd be grateful. Raphael nodded thoughtfully. I understand your situation. The pendant was kept in a special box with other items of sentimental value. It might have been misplaced or given away without our knowing. I'll check with my wife to see if she remembers anything about it. With this new lead, Guo felt a renewed sense of purpose. He and Raphael exchanged contact information, agreeing to stay in touch and follow up on any new information that might arise. As Guo left the cafe, he felt a glimmer of hope that this breakthrough might finally lead him to Luca. The following days were a whirlwind of activity for Guo. He continued his search with renewed vigor, driven by the possibility that the pendant and the clues from Raphael might lead him to his missing daughter. Meanwhile, Mariella and Dante offered their support, helping him with any resources they could provide and staying hopeful alongside him. Guo's perseverance began to pay off when Raphael contacted him with an update. Raphael's wife had remembered a conversation with someone who had recently come into possession of similar jewelry, possibly through a sale. This lead took Guo to a local pawn shop where he discovered that the pendant had been sold to someone who claimed to have bought it from a woman who was in a desperate situation. With this new piece of information, Guo continued to piece together the puzzle. He began to follow every lead, driven by the hope that each step would bring him closer to Luca. His journey had taken him through many challenges, but with the support of his friends and the new clues, Guo remained determined to find his daughter and bring her home. Guo's determination continued to drive him forward as he pursued every lead with relentless resolve. Each small clue and every bit of information kept the hope alive in his heart, despite the growing passage of time. His visits to local communities and his efforts on social media garnered some attention, though they didn't immediately yield significant results. The pendant and the jeweler's confirmation of its unique design became a symbol of hope rather than an immediate breakthrough. Guo shared his story widely, hoping that someone might recognize Luca or provide crucial information. In addition to his public efforts, Guo also revisited old friends and acquaintances, hoping that someone might recall a detail or remember a conversation that could help him. He distributed flyers and engaged with local media, all while continuing his routine visits to the pond where he had saved Javier. It had become a place of solace for him, a spot where he felt a connection to the ongoing search for his daughter. One day, while distributing flyers in a neighborhood known for its close-knit community, Guo was approached by a woman who seemed intrigued by his story. She introduced herself as Elena, a local journalist who had taken an interest in missing persons cases. "I've heard about your search for your daughter," Elena said, her tone compassionate. "I'd like to help. If you don't mind, I can feature your story in a special report. Sometimes, media coverage can reach people who might have seen or heard something." Guo was initially hesitant but eventually agreed, recognizing that any additional exposure might help his cause. Elena's report was thorough, capturing Guo's relentless search and the emotional impact of Luca's disappearance. It was broadcast across local channels and shared extensively online. The increased media attention brought new leads. People began to come forward with information that, while not always directly related to Luca, helped build a clearer picture of the area and its recent events. Guo followed up on each lead, never dismissing even the smallest hint. Then, several months later, a breakthrough came. A local man contacted Guo after seeing the news report. He had recently encountered a woman who matched Luca's description and had been seen in the area where Guo's pendant had last been seen. The man provided a detailed description of the woman and mentioned a location where she had been spotted frequently. With this new lead, Guo, accompanied by local authorities, visited the area. They found that the description matched a woman who had been staying at a nearby shelter. After verifying her identity, they learned that she had been living under a different name and had been in difficult circumstances. To Guo's astonishment, the woman, whose name was Elena, revealed that she was indeed Luca. She had been trying to escape from a series of personal issues and had ended up in a situation far from home. The discovery was overwhelming for Guo, who felt a mix of relief and sadness at the trials his daughter had faced. Reuniting with Luca was an emotional moment for Guo. Despite the hardships and the time apart, their bond remained strong. Luca was now a young adult with a complex story of her own, but the reunion marked the beginning of healing for both father and daughter. Guo's tireless search had finally come to fruition. With Luca back in his life, they began the long process of rebuilding their relationship and moving forward from the challenges they had faced. The experience left Guo with a deep appreciation for the support he received from friends, community, and the media, and he carried forward the lessons learned during his journey of hope and perseverance. As we reach the end of this deeply moving story, we reflect on the incredible journey of Guo's relentless search for his missing daughter, Luca. From his unwavering hope to the community's support, Guo's story is a powerful reminder of the strength of love, determination, and the importance of never giving up on those we cherish. What have you learned from Guo's experience? How can we apply these lessons of perseverance and hope in our own lives? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share one thing you've learned from this story and how you plan to put it into practice in the comments below. If you found this video inspiring, please leave your comment and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that touch the heart and ignite the spirit. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.